The prisoner transport ship Meridian drifted silently through the void between star systems, its hull scarred from countless battles across the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison walked the dimly lit corridors, checking on the various alien captives housed in the detention cells. Most were common criminals or pirates, but one prisoner was different from all the others. Princess Lyra of the Veltarian Empire sat gracefully in her cell, her ethereal blue skin shimmering under the artificial lights. Her pointed ears twitched slightly as Jake approached, and her large violet eyes tracked his movement with keen intelligence. The delicate silver chains that bound her wrists seemed almost decorative against her elegant frame, though Jake knew they were forged from the strongest alloys in known space. "Your evening meal, Your Highness," Jake said softly, sliding a tray through the meal slot. Unlike the standard rations given to other prisoners, this tray contained carefully prepared foods that met Veltarian dietary requirements. Lyra studied him with those penetrating eyes, her head tilting slightly. "You bring me proper nutrition again, Captain Morrison. You ensure my quarters maintain the correct atmospheric composition for my species. You even provided me with those meditation crystals I mentioned help calm my people during confinement." She paused, her musical voice carrying a note of genuine confusion. "Why are you so kind to me, human? What do you really want?" Jake leaned against the bulkhead, considering her question. Around them, the ship hummed with the quiet efficiency of a vessel designed for long-range transport missions. "Does kindness always require an ulterior motive among your people, Princess?" "In my experience, yes." Lyra moved to the tray and picked up the carefully prepared fruit, its surface glowing faintly with bioluminescence. "When I was captured during the Battle of Proxima Station, I expected torture, interrogation, perhaps even execution. Instead, I find myself treated better than many guests in royal palaces." "You were wounded when we found you," Jake replied simply. "Your ship was destroyed, and you were floating in an escape pod with failing life support. Any decent being would have helped." Lyra took a small bite of the fruit, her expression thoughtful. "The Terran Federation has been at war with my father's empire for 3 years. I am quite literally your enemy, Captain. I have personally commanded fleets that destroyed human colonies. And yet here you are, eating dinner instead of plotting our destruction." A sound that might have been laughter escaped Lyra's lips, perhaps because plotting destruction is difficult when one's captor insists on treating them with dignity. She set down the fruit and studied Jake more intently. "Your own military command must find your behavior concerning. Surely they expect you to extract intelligence from me through less pleasant means." Jake pushed himself away from the wall and moved closer to the cell's energy barrier. "Princess, let me ask you something. If I were captured by Veltarian forces, how would I be treated?" Lyra's silence stretched for several heartbeats before she answered. "You would be subjected to neural probes, sensory deprivation, and psychological conditioning until you revealed everything you know about human military capabilities." Her voice carried no shame, merely stating fact. "It would be efficient." "And how would that make you feel, knowing I was suffering for information?" "It would be necessary for the war effort." But even as she said it, something flickered in her expression. "Though I confess, after these past weeks, the thought brings me less satisfaction than it once did." Jake nodded slowly. 3 months ago, before we encountered your escape pod, my ship received a distress call from a civilian transport under attack by pirates. We arrived to find the ship destroyed and most of the passengers dead. But we saved 47 people that day, including children. What does this have to do with me? Among the survivors was a little girl, maybe 6 years old. She'd lost her parents in the attack and was traumatized beyond words. My medic, Dr. Amanda Collins, spent hours with her, just sitting quietly and offering comfort. No demands, no expectations, just kindness. Jake's voice grew softer. "That little girl wasn't human, Princess. She was Altarian, with blue skin and pointed ears remarkably similar to yours." Lyra's hand moved unconsciously to touch one of her own pointed ears, her eyes widening slightly. "Dr. Collins didn't care about species or politics. Jake continued. She saw a frightened child who needed comfort. When I look at you, I don't see the enemy princess who destroyed human colonies. I see someone who was injured and needed help. But surely you must want something in return for this treatment. Information about our defenses, troop movements, my father's strategic plans. Jake was quiet for a long moment, watching as understanding began to dawn in Lyra's expression. Princess, when we reach the prisoner exchange point next week, you'll be returned to your people as part of the negotiated swap. I've never once questioned you about military matters. That makes no strategic sense. Maybe not, but it makes human sense. Lyra stood and approached the barrier, close enough that Jake could see the conflicted emotions playing across her delicate features. Your species confuses me, Captain Morrison. You show mercy to enemies, kindness to strangers, and sacrifice yourselves for people you've never met. By all logical standards, humans should have been conquered or destroyed long ago. Yet here we are. Yes, here you are. She pressed her palm against the barrier, and Jake found himself matching the gesture from his side. In our archives, there are reports of human soldiers sharing their rations with enemy wounded, human medics treating alien casualties before their own injured, human civilians sheltering refugees from species they'd never encountered before. And what do your military strategists make of such reports? They dismiss them as propaganda or aberrant behavior. Lyra's smile held a sadness that Jake found unexpectedly moving. But after spending these weeks observing you and your crew, I begin to suspect they are simply afraid of what it might mean if the reports are true, which is that perhaps strength isn't measured only in weapons and conquest, that perhaps the very qualities our leaders consider weaknesses might actually be the source of humanity's resilience. Jake stepped back from the barrier, but his eyes remained locked with hers. Princess, when you return to your people, what will you tell them about your time here? Lyra was quiet for so long that Jake wondered if she would answer at all. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I will tell them that I met a human captain who showed me kindness without expectation of reward, and that for the first time in my life, I understood why this war frightens our generals more than they care to admit. Because humans fight differently? No, Captain Morrison, because you love differently, and that I am beginning to realize makes all the difference in the universe. As Jake walked away from her cell that evening, he could feel Lyra's thoughtful gaze following him down the corridor, and he wondered what changes their brief encounter might bring to the galaxy's future.